Hi, everybody. It's Beatriz. Before you continue listening to the podcast, I do want to warn you that some of the topics we're about to discuss can be triggering. So if you don't want to hear any form of discussion about sexual assault or pedophilia, then I recommend not listening in on this one. If you do decide to listen, it's a great podcast. If you don't, it's okay. We'll be back next week, and hopefully we won't have to talk about this stuff next week. So yeah, enjoy. Hello and welcome to the Overly Animated Podcast, where we take animation seriously. I'm Beatriz Mourad, and today I'm joined by Michelle Anderer.
Hello.
And April Collins.
Hi there.
Today we will be discussing the 9th episode of Fruits Basket, Yuki Was My First Love. Warning, spoilers for everything that has aired up to this point. Some of us have read the manga, some of us have seen the early 2000s version of the anime, but we won't be spoiling anything beyond episode 9. You can find out more about this podcast at overlyanimated.com. You can subscribe to us on iTunes at overlyanimated.com/iTunes. You can find us on Spotify or on YouTube at youtube.com/overlyanimated. All right, tell me, what are your general thoughts? Or you know what, let me start with my general thought, because you guys are going to get to the other stuff, but I just want to have this. Hanajima Saki is the greatest character in existence.
Oh my god.
She's so amazing and beautiful and extra. Like, I never know what's gonna happen with her. And the moment and the way that again, props to the translation team and the subbers over at Crunchyroll, because when she just goes, alas, and just falls to the floor, and she never does the race. She never does it. And it's so great. And by the end, even the PE teacher gives in and joins her in her game of poker. I don't know what it was. I'm assuming it's poker. Point is, she's the greatest, and I don't think I will ever meet a character in this world of the basket of fruits that is as good as Hanajima. And that is my take of this episode. But what are your general thoughts?
The best in a while. That was such a good. It kept evolving. Because first it's just her, and then a few boys join, and then Shigure and Yuki and Kyo, and the teacher are all there, and then they all get sick because of it. And it's just the best culmination. It's so funny.
See, but is she sick from it? That's what I want to know. Is she okay? Is she feeling okay?
She's pretty tough cookie. She might have had extra layers on underneath her gym clothes. I wouldn't put that past her.
She was one of the few people wearing pants.
That's true. Yeah,
that is very true. But what about you guys? What were your big general thoughts of this episode, April?
So this episode was very eye-opening for me because I thought I had a really good handle on the characters and everything like that, and then they started going into Haru's backstory, and I was like, wow, I don't remember anything about this show. But also I maintain that the emotional abuse in the Soma household is very, very bad.
So bad.
I don't understand why CPS hasn't been called on this clan because there's so many things wrong with them. But it was a good episode. I definitely enjoyed the running gag of Hanajima being dramatic and extra AF. It was beautiful. She's besides Toru, she's probably my favorite character. And then even we got a little bit more of Shigure's personality this episode too, him just being oh, Yuki, you're a naughty, a dirty. And I was like, this is inappropriate, but also very hilarious at the same time. But yeah, I feel there wasn't too much going on in this episode. I don't know if anyone else felt that way.
Yeah. It was very light. It was a lot, but I mean, it really makes the previous episode stand out for being very heavy.
Yes. So I think that's kind of nice too, that we're in kind of a lighter episode, and I mean, not to say that what Haru went through was not bad or anything like that, but in its place, like, it's sort of like less terrible. I mean, I guess they just thought he was dumb, which how do you even get to that conclusion that, like, oh, like, you were being a kind, your animal spirit was being kind and let the rat ride on your back. Like, I don't understand how that makes you dumb, but okay, so a family.
It's the ox didn't know the rat was catching a ride with him, and then the rat like hopped off first, so it got to be the first one there instead of the ox.
Oh.
And that was the trickery.
Yeah.
Because I don't think he gave him a ride on purpose. I think he just like snatched a ride.
Yeah.
But I think that says more about the rat than the ox.
No,
Yeah.
totally.
And not just that, but like poor, like how can the look, oxes, their necks can't go all the way up. How is it supposed to know?
They're not owls. Come on.
Exactly. So I feel for him, like, that's not fair to call a kid dumb just because of his spirit animal. Like, whatever. But I do love him. He's very attractive also.
Yes.
I'm digging the black and white hair thing. Like, I had a moment where I was like, I should color my hair black and white. This is amazing.
Do it.
Yeah. So it was a nice episode. So
Yeah. Michelle, what about you?
I feel kind of bad because I think I was like least high on this episode than any episode so far. And I was looking forward to this episode more than any episode because Haru is my number one. He is so beautiful and he's bisexual. And he is everything I want to be, except, like, I swear, this was the thing, like, in the initial anime, he made such a strong impression on me, because he's one of the few I actually remember, and it's been so long now, I don't know what they did with him that was different, but his introduction here felt kind of worse than there, because in the last time I remember, like, the distinction between his like black and white Haru sides was kind of a little more explicitly clear. But in this episode it didn't feel that different, because even when he's like quote unquote being the nice Haru in the beginning, he still like trips Kyo and like wants to fight him. And that's before, like, his personality is supposed to have changed.
Right.
And I think we're supposed to assume, like, oh, he's, like, a super nice guy. What's this? Now he's, like, kind of out for blood. But, like, he seemed sort of out for blood from the beginning in a more subtle way. So that kind of threw me, because I loved him so much initially. But this version of him, I don't know. It might take a little more warming up, too. Also, I'm, like, kind of disappointed in Shigure.
Yeah. We'll talk about him. But are you saying that Haru is now less black and white and more gray? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, but I don't like that because it's less fun.
Right.
For him, because that's his whole thing, is like he's two extremes almost.
Right.
And he's not like really that nice at all. The only nice thing he did was for Yuki carrying him on his back. And that's because he's explicitly said he's in love with him. That was his first crush ever.
Right.
But I don't know. I feel bad that I'm not as high, but like I really liked him before, and now I feel kind of weird.
That's okay. It's just expectation. I completely understand that where you're coming from. And question: do you think that maybe one of the reasons why he's not as explicit is because they didn't want to make the comparison to Kagura? I mean, they in the episode they say, he's just like Kagura.
Yeah, they do.
They
make
make it. They
But,
make
like,
it. Yeah.
But I feel like I agree with Michelle that like it's totally like not the same as like, because you could like there was a very obvious like difference between the two of them, but even like when he's like, I guess like not the dark Haru, he's still very like the same. It's just that he's got like a less intense voice to him.
Yeah.
And like maybe like the way he's like drawn looks slightly different. Like that's the only like differences that I noticed, but it wasn't even like that much. So like I 100% understand Michelle's disappointment. So
and I didn't watch the 2000s anime, but was Kagura less extreme in that, or was she equally as extreme in that one as she
was
like
equally as extreme? Yeah.
That's interesting. Maybe they should have just gone like extreme with him too. Maybe like, you know, it would have, because if they are going to make that comparison, then I mean, you're right. He was. I didn't really see that much of a difference between dark Haru and not dark Haru. I don't know if it's called like light Haru. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
But like, what was it? Because they were like, oh, well, like I guess like light Haru is like ditzy, and I was like, is he even that like ditzy in this? I mean, he got lost for 3 days. Like
that was kind of weird. Like, is that his normal personality? He just like gets lost, and it's endearing or something. I don't know.
I mean, that's not endearing. That's very concerning.
Yeah,
like, that's him out of the house.
But not just that, but it's like, okay, well here's the question. Then is the dark and light Haru, is that an actual reality, or is that people projecting what they think of the ox onto him?
Well, no, because he kind of like owned it, and it's interesting too because like I guess like he's like, oh, the first time I went dark was like after he spoke to Yuki, and Yuki was like, oh, well, are you dumb? And I was like, that's a really thing to like trigger.
I don't think it was the first time he spoke to Yuki. The first time he spoke to Yuki was he said like, oh, like when Yuki asked him and he goes, no, I'm not. But he went dark before that.
So I think he explained that in the flashback. He was saying that so when he got picked on a lot because people heard, you know, the other somas, they heard about how, you know, the story, the rat tricks the ox, so therefore the ox must be dumb, and therefore you must be dumb, child, because you turn into the ox sometimes. And his dark side came out of him not being able to like channel his like frustration and anger with being picked on any other way. Like he also took up martial arts, but he said that didn't exactly like cure him of his anger, which makes sense because they still picked on him even though he started martial arts. So like even though he was using the exercise to kind of decompress, the bullying didn't stop, so he still had that, and so he kind of shifted all that into a whole new persona,
right?
That became the Dark Haru, I guess. Yeah.
If anything, it was when he admitted to Yuki that he wasn't. That was the first time he was able to finally let out something in a positive way, which is a nice message. Which is when you are able to voice your internal struggles, it's therapeutic, which is nice to see that visually without clearly stating it, but having it seen through action, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I got a lot of like mixed signals from the whole like Dark Haru versus like regular one because
it was weird.
Framed very well, and maybe that's the big difference. Because in the initial anime, like I feel bad because like it honestly has been years and years since I've seen it, so like maybe it wasn't as good at doing it either as I remember. But like the way they framed it was a lot clearer. It was a distinct difference in like when he switched, like you could tell. You didn't need the characters to point it out. Whereas I feel like now you really did need him to be like, oh, he's back to himself, or oh, he's turned into Dark Haru, because you can't tell as easy the way it just is presented to us in this version. I feel like that's kind of the big problem. Yeah. The framing is just not as clear.
Yeah.
And I think my other problem with it too is like, because the whole thing stems from like all of these people bullying him because he's the ox, and they're calling him dumb and saying he's stupid. But then like they make, I guess, like the nice version of him very like airheaded.
Oh,
and I'm like, wow, like what message are you sending? Like, I think that's like my other issue with it too, is because I'm like, what message are you trying to send when like you want us to feel like sympathetic because he's been picked on and been called dumb, even though he's not, but then you're presenting to us, and like it would be like one thing like if they weren't also like outwardly saying like, oh, he's an airhead, he got lost for 3 days, like kind of thing. And I'm like, wow, like that doesn't make me feel good. Like
right. Yeah. I feel like maybe if they had reinterpreted the term airhead, instead of it making it seem like he's just kind of like, instead of making it appear like he's dim-witted, if anything, it was just kind of like him being unable to understand like social cues or something. Maybe if it were more like, that,
or
just
like
having
a lack
it be different.
of like focus or something. You know what I
Right,
mean? Like,
yeah,
I
there are
felt
other
like you
ways
could
that-
channel it
Right.
versus just him just outwardly being like, oh, well, I got lost for 3 days. Like, what?
But or maybe even not even that. Maybe he could still get lost for 3 days, but it was more basic, like you said, more on like attention, being like, oh,
Yeah.
I was supposed to go. I was supposed to come here, but then I
I
went to
saw
this restaurant, and then I saw
Yeah.
this thing, and then I talked to these people, and then somehow it took me 3 days to get here.
And then they invited me over, and we played board games, and
Right,
then I left
right.
to come back, and then along the way, I got stuck at this coffee shop, and then there was a bit, like, there could have been, like...
Multiple being like,
Yeah.
suddenly I ended up in, like, England, and I don't know how, but here I am back. It took a while. Don't ask. Like, maybe that could have been like
3
a funny-
months. It's been 4 months.
Yeah, you know, I mean, there are ways to make it, to keep like kind of the humor and the essence of that, but also keep it kind of, because that was what confused me. It was like, okay, so is that's why people thought that's why people called him dumb, is because he wasn't. I don't know. I don't know. I just found it.
Yeah.
I just wish they kind of would have handled it a little bit more clearly than easily being like, oh, we're just going to show you the cutesy version of him being dumb, even though he's told us that he isn't dumb.
Yeah.
And it's
Like, if
yeah.
you're gonna make an outward declaration of not being dumb, then in like that being, I guess, the source of conflict within the character, then you should make an effort to not make him dumb.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's why it wasn't. Maybe that's why they didn't want to do it so extreme. The whole like if it for at least I didn't see the anime. So from what I'm understanding, in the original 2000s one, he was extreme. He was much more extremely kind of airheaded, I guess, and then he goes from that to being violent. Is that it?
I don't remember. Because the thing is, I don't think the anime is like trying to even say that he's dumb. I think the confusion is that like we don't know if he is absent-minded or just bad with directions, because the only times we see him doing something that seems kind of strange is when he gets lost for 3 days, and when Kyo recounts like you're beating me up, but I used to walk you home because you'd get lost. Like, maybe it's just about getting lost and it's only a directional thing, but we just don't have any more information about him to make that conclusion. So it's like all we can do is speculate.
Gotcha.
And I don't want to speculate. I want to know.
Do you think we're gonna see him in like the next episode, or is it gonna be kind of like a one and done deal like Kagura?
Oh, I think he'll come back, because like I feel like he was in at least a couple episodes.
Yeah,
because
I feel like we had a better relationship with him like previously.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
and that might be the other thing too, is that me and Michelle just remember being more familiar with him,
Right?
and so coming into like his introduction feels very out of place for us as well.
Right.
So,
Gotcha.
Because like when I remember him, like I remember him being like kind of like super flirtatious with people, and men and women being like really into him, and him kind of playing that up, and that was like part of his whole appeal. Like, he's very confident in himself, and he's very equal opportunity. Gotcha. And then like, you know, he goes from being kind of chill and easy to get along with to like this really intense side. But maybe we'll see that later. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I'm sure like Kagura's gonna come back eventually too. But I mean, like, if we're gonna see him next episode, or is he gonna just?
That's the Valentine's Day episode, so it makes sense for him and Kagura to come back,
that's
right?
True. I didn't know it was a Valentine. I didn't see the little the title of the next episode. But,
oh yeah. It's Valentine's Day.
So it would make sense. Maybe that's what we need. We just need more time with him. But I agree. The introduction was kind of muddy. But let's kind of talk about this because we do learn a lot from his backstory that we get, which is, one, he used to hate Yuki because, again, the prejudices of their zodiacs. But what that tells me is that we were thinking Yuki was like this kid that everyone wanted that everyone kind of adored, that everyone wanted to be like, that everyone idolized, even in the family. Yet, you know, this is the first time we're seeing, oh, wait, the rat was seen as dirty. It was seen as the dirty rat, like the conniving kind of thing. So it's interesting. Like, what do you guys think of how does that change your perspective on Yuki's upbringing. Because for a while, from the previous discussions, we only saw the family. I mean, we know the school idolizes him, but we thought the family did too. And now we're seeing that not everyone did.
I wonder, it made me kind of curious if, like, maybe Yuki kind of, like, only gets treated specially because, like, he seems to be Akito's favorite of all of them. And so maybe it kind of comes from there. But also, like, this family seems to be full of gossip and everything, too. So, like, especially because they were just talking about kids behind their backs, like they're adults or something. But,
right.
And so, like, I wonder if, like, that's, like part of the thing, too, is that, like, I don't know. He was just sort of normal and treated normally, except like in terms of like Akito, and Akito played favoritism with him versus like the rest of the family. Also, I'm just curious, like how I guess the parents know about their like children being Zodiac members too.
Yeah, because I mean they do mention it. They're like, oh, like when his dark version appeared for the first time, his parents got into trouble, which is like, what does that mean? Like, what type of trouble?
I think he meant that, like, he gave his parents a lot of trouble by being super, like, high-strung and angry. Yeah, like an angry teenager, but, like, more so in his dark persona.
And as a child.
Yeah, and as a child.
Oh, because I thought it was like he had kind of anger issues when he was a kid. So it was
I think
like
that is what it means.
But I mean, like, it wasn't that he caused his parents trouble, like them raising him, but rather like he would like get into fights with kids and get people hurt, and then his parents would be scolded by whoever.
I mean, that's still causing
trouble. Yeah. It still was like it made
like I guess kind of a pain to deal with at the same time. So
I just meant like it sounded like they were punished by someone rather than them being punished by just being in his presence, which sounds really bad. but you know what I'm getting at.
I mean, it could be both, really. Like his parents got in trouble, maybe like with Akito or something, because we all know the extent of Akito's, I guess, power in this family. So it could be that, like, Akito was mad because he's like, hey, control your kid. And they're like, we can't. He's angry because you called him stupid.
Right. Which is, like, also, like, to his parents, did his parents call him stupid, too? Which, that's, like, that's a big no-no. You don't... Oh, man.
I don't think his kids. Immediate family did, but, like, enough of the other Somas did that, like, it still stuck a chord, and he started to actually internalize it and believe it for a few years, which is damaging enough.
Yeah, or even if, like, maybe... like his parents got a lot of like flack, like, oh, like you must be so embarrassed. Your kid's the dumb ox. Like I can't imagine. And then of course, like he probably internalized that as well. And so, I feel like also having like a child who's a Zodiac member is stressful in and of itself. And then for them to have to like deal with that as well as like being looked down upon simply because of their child, like I'm sure like they didn't have an easy time from that. And if they had I don't know, if they were in any type of way, shape, or form, like, I say not good parents, but they could have also taken that out on him as well. Like I can't, like, you know, it's bad enough, like, you have these anger issues, but I'm also, like, your parent, but, you know what I mean? Like, and then, in turn, is more for him to internalize, like, so, poor sweet Soma Zodiac children.
And here's something interesting. So, you know, he said that he didn't really talk much to Yuki as a kid. It took a while for him to actually see Yuki. But he and Kyo mentioned how he would always take care of him and like take him whenever he got lost. He'd be the one to bring him back. So I'm curious, do you guys think, despite Kyo being the cat, the one that is not in the Zodiac family, he's the one that's actually closest with the other Zodiacs and not really, and Yuki is not, which kind of, we saw that in school that Kyo was the one that was able to make friends quickly, whereas Yuki was kind of shunned by everyone unintentionally, but that's what it turned out. He was kind of isolated. So I'm curious, do you guys think that the Zodiacs also, that happened with the Zodiacs too? Because again, Kagura is super close with Kyo. Haru wants to fight Kyo. he wants to, like, they train together. So it's kind of like, I mean, and it's interesting how, like, no one's ever, except for Akito, which is not the greatest person to be in that we should consider, but except for Akito, like, no one's expressly been like, oh, I miss Yuki so much. Like, I'm mad at Yuki for, like, leaving.
Yeah, I feel like I definitely agree that, like, Yuki was probably more isolated as a child than, like, the other Zodiac members, just from the reasons that you said, which is, again, even more interesting that Kyo, like, feels that he's left out because, like, even, like, who is it? Like, Kagura, like, had, like, childhood memories with, like, Kyo, but none of them have any childhood memories with Yuki, and the only, like, other kids that Yuki interacted with had their memories erased from playing. Right. So that's just like...
Oh, that's really sad.
Yeah, like... And then I wonder if even then from that, like Yuki, maybe even Yuki like isolated himself because of that incident. Because that happened when he was like really young. And then he just remembers like Akito. And so maybe even Yuki's like, yeah, well, like... no kids will like me, not even the Zodiac kids. Like, so.
Poor Yuki.
I know. This whole family.
I know. We spent, like, there's always a moment in every podcast where we always go, poor, fill in the blank.
Or insert character here.
Exactly. Okay, well, then here's something that I find that it's a parallel that I'm excited to make. Yuki is very much does something for Haru that's very Toru-like, which is just by being himself, he's having a positive impact. Like, from a very young age, he's been rebelling against the image of the rat. And it's it's through the interaction that Haru has with him that Haru himself is like, oh, you're right. Like, I'm not dumb, and like, I shouldn't have to think that you are dirty like the rat. Which is really nice. I'm like, oh, like, even before... Like, I basically, what I'm saying is I could see why Toru and Yuki would make such a great couple, because there's echoes of each other within the other, which is so nice.
I agree.
Yeah. But we do get, for people who like ship Kyo and Toru, we do get that moment. But I kind of want to talk about that later, because that has issues. Because there's problems with that. And we always have to end on a sad note, not on a positive one. But let's talk about this kind of flashback a little bit. Because there's multiple. We have like the big flashback with Haru and Yuki, which was really sweet, and seeing Yuki as a kid and Haru as a kid is adorable always. But we get this flashback where Yuki is looking at Haru and Kyo like practicing martial arts, and then we get this very shocking, kind of scary kind of end to that flashback, which is Akito putting his hands over Yuki's eyes, and it looks like he's pulling him away, which is very horror-esque, and very sinister, and that's what causes Yuki's, like, attack. And we know that Yuki's been, like, ill since young. He's had, like, kind of these, like, respiratory issues. I don't know if it's asthma. I don't know. They never really say what it is. I'm curious, is it because of Akito? Like, is it actually that he's, is it that he actually has, like, a physical, genetic, thing that he was born with? Or was it that because of the stress that Akito made him, again, nature versus nurture, it basically nurtured him to have these kind of panic attacks. It's more induced by trauma than I don't know what causes asthma. So that. What do you guys think?
I mean, I do think he has an actual illness, but it's totally possible that Akito has exacerbated the situation by, I mean, I think the thing with Yuki is, like, so he did get sick as a kid, and you can tell, like, even when he's outside looking at Haru and Kyo, they're in, like, normal clothes, that he has this, like, extra, like, robe thing on, because maybe he, like, catches a cold easily or something. But I think, like, his isolation was a combination of him being sick a lot, and Akito wanting his company. He definitely has a special interest in him, and I think the combination of those two things made it a lot harder for him to interact with other kids, on top of the whole, some of them assuming like, oh, he's dirty and crafty. And it's weird, right? Because like on one hand, they think like, oh, he's so clever and he picks up things so easily because he's the rap. On the other hand, it's like, oh, he's sneaky and dirty and he sucks. Like, it's like interesting, right? Like both those things can be true, but it's very contradictory. Yeah. So I think like Akito definitely had something to do with his childhood not being super fun. I don't know if he made him sicker than he normally would have been, but I think sometimes it's hard to get better when you're kept away from everything and like your emotional spirit is just demoralized, and that can lead to like further illness sometimes too. So I think like it was founded in like a real illness, but maybe being around Akito just made it harder to recover in some ways.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I feel that. So do you guys believe, why do you guys think that he studied martial arts then? Because he says that he doesn't outwardly say, oh, it's because he liked martial arts. Do you have any guesses as to why?
My guess is honestly, I feel that, I mean, I don't have kids or anything like that, but I feel that like martial arts is always a good like suggestion that I don't know who, like teachers or people like in like those type of positions make for kids who potentially have like built up aggression or things like that. And so I wonder if like maybe he didn't like it at first, but he probably got started in it because it was probably like his parents just trying to find like a good outlet for him, one that's not going to be like destructive, because in martial arts, like even though like it seems violent in nature, there's a lot of like meditation that goes along with it and things like that. And I mean, it would just depend on like which type of martial arts he like practiced as well.
But I mean, was Yuki ever seen as violent? Like, I'm not like what, like I don't. He obviously has like anger, but like I mean, because I understand for like Haru, for instance. Oh, like he's aggressive, and same with Kyo, because Kyo tends to be he's a lot to handle. So I can understand that for them, but for Yuki, it was like he couldn't say that he liked it. I'm just curious, like, why would he? Was it like a form of escape, or?
Probably. I mean, it could have been that he saw like other kids around his age doing it and enjoying it and having fun, and he wanting to be closer to what they had. He's like, oh, I guess I need to join martial arts. But I think maybe the issue was that maybe because he is better at it sooner, they kind of resented him for that, and they didn't actually want to play with him that much. Because it's weird, because like Kyo likes martial arts just regardless. It pumps him up, it makes him excited. He likes improving, but like with Yuki, he's really good at it, but he only does it when he's kind of forced to. When Kyo like pushes him enough that he gets mad enough to fight him because he's angry. But yeah, he doesn't ever do it for fun. So I wonder if he picked it up initially either he's like, oh, like, yeah, it'll release my stress like it does for them, and then he just really didn't actually like it, but he's good at it, or he wanted to use it as a way to socially connect to the other boys,
or even as just an escape from like Aikido and you know what I mean, like it's something that he could do, you know, like he could do and focus on that like Aikido couldn't participate in, you know what I mean? Like
Aikido's too sick, he can't do it.
Right, but I mean like if because it just seems like Aikido has like such a firm grasp on him that I can't imagine that like, you know, he's like I feel like he's just kind of like the helicopter parent, but like even more so, like you can't go to the like I'll sit outside the bathroom waiting for you. Like that's just kind of how I imagine it in my head. And so like I just imagine that like martial arts was a way for Yuki to just like get to like do something for himself kind of thing. So because he's just like, Aikido can't participate in this with me. Like if there ever comes a time when maybe I have to fight Aikido off or whoever, like I have this skill set like in my back pocket.
Yeah. I mean, and also I feel like it could be him wanting to get stronger physically and thinking that can help
right.
him.
It's like, I'm sick, but
Exactly.
I can do it too, even if I have respiratory issues.
Yeah. And then that will help him not have the attacks as much and then build up that strength. And maybe that's why he like focused. Because I don't like when people like show like prodigies. It's like, no, they put in that much more work. And, so I'm like, that wouldn't surprise me that he like really worked hard on it because he wanted to like get just physically stronger.
Yeah. That makes a lot more sense though, because like for him, what Marshall is for Kyo is what the garden is for Yuki.
Right.
Like, that's his version of the thing that actually brings him joy and that helps him decompress. So what Beatrice, what you're saying, that he did it not because he loved it, but because he's like, I'm sick, but this can help me not feel as weak because I can be stronger physically. Like that makes a lot more sense than him wanting to just find joy out of it, because clearly that's not the case at all.
Also, it also makes me so sad that like if he did want to do it for the sake of getting closer with people, and then that just isolated him more, that just makes me real sad.
That would be really sad.
But everyone seems to like be aware that Yuki does not like Akito. Like, I feel like even Akito knows
nobody
that.
Nobody does.
Nobody likes him.
No one,
but, like, I feel like the only one.
Them, though.
No, I agree. Who can blame him? But I feel like the only person Akito cares about is Yuki. So it's kind of like, at least the one that he wants to, okay, that's hard because he wants to control everybody. But, he's his favorite. Which is, so I feel like everyone, like, Haru was like, I know that you don't want me to send you back. Like, go to the main house. So do you think that, what do you think they think of what Yuki's doing? Like, do they think he's being brave? Do you think that they think that he's useless for standing up to Akito? Do they not care because they're like, well, what are you gonna do? He's the head of the house. Like, do you have any theories on like what they could think? Because I mean, I feel like up to this point we've only seen them just kind of. It's kind of like a resigned type of thing, like behavior, where they're like, all right, I'll support you, but also I'm not gonna involve myself and join you in rebelling with him.
Yeah, I think that's what it is, right? I mean, I think Kageto's the only one who would be with them if she could, and she can't. She's not allowed. Yeah. I think the rest of them, they feel for him, and they get that his relationship is maybe extra more uncomfortable than a normal Soma with Akito would be, and so they get why he wants extra distance that they don't feel they need. But at the same time, I think they have like this kind of reserved curiosity about like, well, how is this gonna play out? I don't know. Is it a crazy experiment? We'll see what happens. Like, I think they're like kind of intrigued, but they don't have a strong stance either way at this point. And I just because no one's ever done it before.
Yeah. Well, and I also wonder, too, if it's one of those things where they sort of just take the stance of, like, well, Yuki's his favorite, so let's just, like, Akito letting Yuki do whatever he wants kind of situation.
I see, yeah.
So, because, like, and then it's also one of those things, too, where it's like, well, if, like, that's what Yuki's gonna do, like, as long as Akito's not mad at me, like, kind of thing. Because it seems like, I don't know. It seems like no one really cares a whole lot about Yuki and the family. Like, everyone's like far more invested in like each other and then like Kyo. So like I just kind of get like this stance that like, oh, like it's nice because like everyone's like, oh yeah, I get to see Yuki, like nice to see you, but everyone's like, Kyo, like you disappeared for 4 months, hey, like everyone's like way more involved in like Kyo's life than Yuki's, and I think that's because of like Yuki's close I'm gonna say relationship, but that's not like not in a positive sense. Yeah, like his association with Akito. Yeah. So it's his close association with Akito versus, like, and like of course like Akito doesn't care about Kyo, so like they're like, oh, if I associate myself with someone that Akito doesn't care about, like then I get to fly under the radar even more so, but I still stay online. Like
yeah. There is one person who showed care for, one person from the Somas, not including Toru, who showed concern over Yuki this episode, but he didn't show it in he I still don't, I don't trust it. So Shigure was like, hey, don't overdo it. Like, don't overdo it. But he was saying, cause if you do, your form will be revealed. And it's like, unintentionally being like, and we'll have to like suppress minds and like people will find out our secret, which is bad. He didn't just purely say, hey, you shouldn't do it because, you know, you're gonna overexert yourself and you're gonna keep getting sick. He was like, no, you, like, hey, take care of yourself, because if you don't, then secret's out.
I wonder if that's like, it's totally like not in the best, like not the best look for Shigure, but I feel like he was also trying to like appeal to Yuki in a situation that like he could understand. It was like, I feel like he cares, like I definitely feel like he cares about Yuki, but I think that he was like, hey, Yuki understands like the ramifications of transforming in front of a large group of people, and so if in order to get him to care about himself, then that's what I have to bring up, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, you sold me on that.
That's how I read it too, because if you tell someone, yo, like, don't go to school, you'll be sick, they're not gonna care. Like, I don't go to school. And especially for Yuki, like, if he spent a lot of his childhood being sick, like shut away in a house, the last thing he wants to do now is be shut away in a house being sick. He wants to go mingle with other actual humans. So I think April's right. I think Shigure was thinking, like, if I just tell him not to go to school because he's sick, he's gonna ignore me. But if I bring up the little transformation thing, that's probably gonna have like an actual impact on him. So maybe he'll do it for that reason.
Yeah, I agree. You convinced me there. I just don't like Shigure. The more from the first episode, he was already saying weird stuff. So now I'm like, this is, okay, we need to talk about this. So, this is the reason why I stopped watching anime. Like, full stop. Like, this is the reason, like, I stopped. Like, I used to watch anime a bunch when I was younger, when I was like, when I was a teenager, because I didn't know any better, and I was like, oh, this is so cool. Point is, there is just a line that is crossed with Shigure consistently. Every single time. Every time he says something, he can't just be a normal person. He has to also be a creep. And it has to be icky. And it's played as humor, but it's not humor. This type of humor is just highlights an issue that is a concern. I was on Twitter the other day, and I saw a video that legit was this guy. It was in Japan. It was this guy that was a pervert who was caught molesting people on a train, molesting high school girls on a train, running away. And the girls were chasing after him, and the only thing the crowd did was just one man sticking his foot out to trip him. That was it. And I'm just like, this is why. Is because this type of humor is seen as like acceptable. And this type of behavior is seen as acceptable. And just guys being guys. And this isn't just in Japan. This is everywhere. And it's gross. It's gross. It's unacceptable. And I can't stand it. And I don't want to see it anymore. And it's this type of instance. It's like, one time I could ignore it. I could look the other way. I could be like, all right, fine. But this isn't the first time Shigure has done something sketchy, has said something that has rubbed me the wrong way. And it's like, it's impacting the way I am enjoying the show. Because I like this show. I like these stories. And this one character is making it his mission to make me hate it and make me not want to watch it. So I just had to get that out. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on, like, how did you react to this? Am I overreacting? And you don't have to say if I'm overreacting or not. It's fine. I
don't think you're also going to say you're overreacting, Beatrice. I mean, I can imagine somebody getting, like, fresh in the comments being like, hey, like, it's not that big a deal. Like, but, like, the thing is, like, yeah, any media has a chance to say what it wants to in a good or positive way, and to joke about things that actually impact people in a not good way. It's not funny. And I get that this, again, like, this kind of thing might have been a little more ignored 20 years ago when the manga was written, but it wasn't objectively a good thing to write then either. And it's not a good thing to joke about. There are all kinds of gross power imbalances that exist in the world, and older men like thinking, oh, it's hot to go to the school and see the high school girls. It's just like not funny, and they really do that sometimes, and it's not good. And I don't want to think about it in my cute show either. Like, that's not why I watch the show. And yeah, if people like assume that being like writing off as a joke means that it's like not actually that big a deal and it doesn't harm people, it does. And pretending it's a joke is part of what makes that actually harmful. Yeah. So yeah, it's not an overreaction. It is. Yeah. That was when the like that and like Haru Night not being as much as I remember it were the two lowest points for me. But the Shigure thing, like, take that out. I mean, it doesn't add anything good. You don't need that line in there. Like, who does that help? It doesn't make us like him anymore. It makes us actively dislike him. Yeah. And I want to be able to like him.
Yeah. I mean, like, I'm okay with, like, perverted jokes and things like that. Like, that's totally fine with me. Like, I make a perverted joke every now and again. Like, let's be fair and honest. I make them at work. Probably not the best place, but no one cares. I have a very, like, free, like, works place. We also don't have HR right now, but not that she would have stopped us. But like, it's the pedophilia thing that just kind of like that's the thing that kind of gets me the most. And I'm just kind of holding out and hoping that like he doesn't make any more like comments and like in regards to it. Like, I'm fine with the perverted jokes, that's okay, but like don't be like an outward like pedophile, because that's really, really not okay. And that's like a world problem kind of thing where there's just too many cultures and societies that think that, you know, that it's okay to like, just because you're a male over the age of 18 or whatever, that it's okay for you to take advantage of younger women or younger anybody for that matter. It doesn't matter if you're a male or a female. And I that goes both ways. It doesn't matter what the gender is. Like, pedophilia is not okay. Like, if you're like a girl like a woman preying on young boys, or like the other way around. And that's something that like always kind of bothers me. Like, there was like one anime, I don't remember what it was, but like the whole premise was that the fact that this student was sleeping with like a teacher at the school. And I was like, this isn't okay. Like, nothing about this anime is okay. Like, this isn't something that you want. Like, why would you want to project this in the world? And I mean, if like the ages were closer together, then that would be, I guess, kind of different. But we don't know how old like Shigure is. And I mean, we understand that like Toru and Yuki and like their classmates are all in their third year. So that makes them like, what, 17 maybe?
No, actually, because I think they said they're in junior high, though.
No, I think they're freshmen, because I think they're freshmen in high school. And because they said how Haru was a third year junior high student, and he was a year younger.
Either they're seniors in middle school or their first years in high school.
So I think they're like 15.
I thought they said that they were juniors. So I don't remember. They were third year juniors. I don't remember exactly, but like, especially when like, I guess like age is so ambiguous that it like stuff like that isn't okay. Like, if Shigure is like 19 and they're like 17, like, okay, fine, whatever. But like,
Shigure is like 30. He has a house. Like, he has a job. He's a full adult.
Yeah. You're gonna make a case to go down to the school because there's like high school girls there. Like, that's where my biggest issue lies, is with that. And I it's just not something that I care for. Like I said, I'm okay with the joke, like perverted jokes. I'm just not okay with like pedophilia type humor.
Yeah.
So
I think for me, it really depends on the context of the joke. Because like, I'm thinking like, what's an equivalent of this that's somebody who is a teenager to other teens? And I feel like in My Hero Academia, one of the things used to drive me crazy about that show is there's this one character, this boy, His whole power was like his hair was like sticky, and he wore a diaper.
He's my least favorite character.
The thing is, like, so he's like a kid, and he's hitting on kids around his age, but like it's still so gross, and it makes you hate him because he constantly is just a lecher to all the girls in his age group. And the thing is, like, the age, like, it compounds the concern because, like, as him. Shigure being an adult, like, is like an extra layer of the grossness, but objectively, it would still be gross, even if the kid was younger than the high schoolers. Like, I think, like, I'd view it as a little more like, oh, like, he's just being a dumb kid, but I still wouldn't like it, and it still wouldn't be good. And then you'd hope that, like, as that kid grew up, they would lose some of that perspective of, like, I don't know, these hot girls, I'm gonna get with them.
See, that's the thing. It's like, that's where the problem lies with society. It's like, they don't get told, they people laugh it off, and then it's like, well, then he grows up to be a weird creep like Shigure, is the thing. And I'm just like...
But even, like, to the character that, like, Michelle was talking about, like, I hate that character, I think that character is way, way worse than Shigure is. Like, Shigure makes, like I do not mind Shigure in comparison to that character. So, because, like, at least, like, Shigure's only really made this one, like, pedophilia, like, joke. Whereas a lot of his other comments have been like, oh, like, don't get caught by, like, creepers or things like that. And I'm like, okay, that's, like, that, in like, I guess, perspective, that's, like, him kind of being, like, looking out or whatever. But, like, it's like the pedophilia joke that I'm just not okay with. And like I said, that other character is not, like, I do not like them at all. Like, anytime they're on the screen, I'm like, can you go away? Like, now? Yeah. Whereas, like, I can find some enjoyment in Shigure. And that's the difference for me, too, is, like, that. But, like, yeah.
It's tough, because I feel like, and this is, like, a thing, like, we might not all agree, and that's, like, okay, because we all are coming at this from our own kind of things. For me, I think they're both bad. I think the diaper child, I don't remember his real name, and I don't care. But, like, he has, like, literally no redeeming qualities. Shigure does, but I think, like, that and the fact that he's older, that's, like, an extra kind of, because I feel like he could potentially be, like, a more legitimate threat because he has more power over, like, a high schooler, like the mental difference, the size difference, the authority difference. But also, like, I think it's equally concerning to be able to be a really good person in some ways, like looking out for your fam and looking out for the nice girl who's staying with you and be like, oh, you gotta watch out for those creepers. But then to also inherently have some really creepy qualities yourself, like that. It makes it really hard to point fingers and be like, you're like a good or bad person, right? Instead of just like, you can be so kind and generous a lot of the time, but once in a while you do these really gross things. And what does that mean? I think it means, like, you are still kind of gross, and I hope you stop doing this. And I know it's supposed to be funny, but it's not good. And it has an impact on how we see you, even if you've done all this other stuff that's great. Like, that doesn't absolve you. That's kind of how I feel.
No, yeah. I mean, the thing is, I'm also, like, seeing this trend. Well, this isn't the first time we've talked about a character on the show making, like, a weird comment. Like, this is the first time that I'm, like, completely agitated. But it's, you know, for instance, like, in the same episode, we have Haru
wasn't also saying this stuff. It wouldn't have been so awful to get Shigure to sing at the end.
Like, I mean, I think I still would have been triggered by it, but, like, then you have this thing where, like, because it's not just him. This is a thing that the show, like, it's not just with one character. The show has proven, like, has made generalizations based on gender and whatever, and we've seen with this episode how to literally... I read it as him threatening to sexually assault Toru.
Yeah. This is how I read it. So here's my other thing too, is, like, I take this as extremely way worse because he's literally threatening to, first off, Toru's beautiful and sweet and innocent and pure. And I think everyone knows that based off, like, all of the interactions that we've had with Toru. But then, like, and I think that it's not something, like, it's something that you could easily pick up on from her as well. And so, especially like her reactions whenever like, they change back and she like, to their naked bodies and everything like that. And so for him to simply like yes, it's like threatening sexual assault just to make another character jealous.
Yeah.
That, in my eye, that is that is a lot. Like,
it is terrible.
And I think that's another reason too why I'm so cold on Haru this time around.
Yeah,
because
I don't remember. Like, it is possible he was like this the first time, but
he was flirty. He wasn't like
he wasn't like I'm gonna do uncertain things if you don't fight me. He's just like, hey, you're cute, wink, wink.
Yeah, he was more so like, haha, maybe I'll steal a kiss. Like,
right.
But not like, I'm going to do uncertain things. Like, that is that is not okay for me. Because you don't just like you don't get to casually like say you're going to sexually assault someone. And the other thing too is I feel it would be even more so taking advantage of Toru because she's not, because she is so innocent and pure. You know what I mean? Like, so, and I don't mean that to be like insulting to Toru, but that's who she is. And so like, you're not only are you threatening that, but you're also taking advantage, like, for just the sole reason to make someone just jealous. That bothers me.
And I think also something that really bothered me about it was like he wasn't even like threatening her directly.
No,
she wasn't even aware of the threat.
About her, like that's the thing. Like
make the threat to me so I can punch you in the face. You know what I mean? Like let her react, and she'd be like, "You don't get to say that about me."
Yeah.
But like it was literally, it was a very boys' club kind of feel to it, and it was just so gross. And like Kyo was like, "I don't understand what you're trying to say, but it's pissing me off."
No, that's why
it's making me
Kyo,
mad.
though. Like, Kyo doesn't understand what he's saying, but he's just like, the fact that it involves this person I like is enough to make me mad. I don't have to get what you're really implying, even.
Yeah.
And also, like, but I mean, at the same time, I'm like, but is it coming from a protective standpoint, or is it coming from an ownership standpoint? You know what I mean? Which is, obviously, from what we know of Kyo, he's probably going to be very protective, but it's a very thin line. It's a very thin line. And I promise you, Haru was probably saying it so that Kyo could get possessive. Not so that Kyo could get protective.
That was why this happened. It was like, and it feels like a very like anime / manga / like a fanfic thing to be like, I'm gonna threaten this thing you love to get you to do what I want to because like you feel possessive of it. And like I get like in a world where you're, I don't know, 13, 14 and you're like, oh, that's so romantic. Yeah, Kyo's standing up for his woman. But, like, actually, like, it's not really about Toru. It's about, like, this guy trying to go with this other guy to fight him. Yeah. She's not the point, but the threat is real, and that's the problem. Yeah. Like, it's the same reason, like, with Shigure. Like, if you assault someone, it's not because, like, you care what they think. Like, it's not about them. It's about, like, the thrill you get of making someone else feel less powerful than you. Like, it's still about you. That's, like, part of the problem. Like, Toru's like not the point, but the danger for her is still like legitimate. And those two things together, it's like, one, it's very insulting, and two, it's like dangerous. So it's hard to not take it seriously.
Yeah. I mean, and also like, thank God that for me, thank God that Kyo didn't understand what he said, what was being like implied, because if he did understand and he still let her be alone with that guy, unexactable.
Yeah.
Complete. If he did
understand
that's true. And he still let her be alone with him because Yuki was unconscious. He was ill. So for me, I don't know. This episode it really showcased everything wrong with the show in a very, very intense and horrible way. And we needed to talk about it. Usually this podcast doesn't get that heavy. Even if the material of the show is pretty heavy. I mean, we do get kind of heavy, but not so dark in this way. But I mean, the show presented it to us, so we have to engage with it.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
just
you can't ignore it. That's the thing. Like, and I think ignoring.
It's a
you should ignore it. I don't think we should. That's
you shouldn't.
Because it's not okay. And I think that's like, and when something's not okay, like, you have to call it out on it. Yeah. So, yeah.
And again, if people say, like, if you're like, oh, well, you know, it's like that, like,
that's fine.
The manga from a different time. It's like, well, that's why you can change it. Yeah. The direction, this was the time to change it. You're making the remake in 2019, this was a time to change it. And you didn't. And that's a choice that was made, a creative choice.
Well, and the other thing, too, is that I don't think you get to necessarily hide behind, like, because that's the thing that gets me, is that, like, people are like, oh, well, they're just staying really true to the manga. And I'm like, okay, well, that's fine in some regards. But, like, I think if you're going to choose to stray away from things, like, this is a good thing to stray away from. And you know what? Like, it's nice because, like, yeah, they're staying true to the manga, but, like, the original anime that came out, like, didn't stay true to the manga, but we didn't also have this issue. So, you know what I mean? And yeah, that was however many years ago, but even still, like, threatening to sexually assault someone was not okay 20 years ago as much as it's not okay now. Yeah. And so, like, I don't think you get to hide behind the whole, like, oh, well, they're just trying to stay true to the manga. Well, then you know what? Then shame on the manga writers for allowing this to continue on.
Well, not only that,
for being so, like, it has to stay, like, to true form. Well, you know what? F you, because that's not cool. Like,
yeah, but I mean, not only that, but, like, that argument falls flat on its face because the show has deviated from the manga in some perspectives. It's deviated in taking out an entire chapter of the manga and putting two chapters that weren't going to go together, as we saw with Hattori's episode. Yeah, and, like, there was an actual change of scene from the manga and to the anime, because when Akito and Toru meet, like, lock eyes for the first time, in the show, it was by car. In the manga, it was legit. It was a completely different panel. It was by the window. Yeah. Completely different panel. So it's like, you don't get to pick and choose when that argument is applied. You know, it's like they've already shown that they're willing to change things. So it's like, okay, so you decide not to change this very problematic thing. And that is just abhorrent. It's unacceptable.
Yep.
Yeah. But,
let's just pretend this episode doesn't exist. This
podcast. It doesn't exist.
Only Hana plot. That's
only the Hanajima stuff we keep. We only keep the Hanajima stuff. But I didn't mention one thing because I wanted to leave it for the closing thoughts because because this is pretty heavy. I did want to leave on a positive note. But very cute moment with Toru and Yuki when Toru finally says his first name. Like, that was very cute.
Like, she's on the pillows, adorable.
Yeah.
So
and Toru not understanding because she doesn't see him blush. So she goes, see, like, it's not me. And it's like, yes, honey, it is you.
But it is.
Oh, man. So that was, I think, a highlight of the episode. That and Hanajima were just great highlights for me. But yeah, any last thoughts before we finish off?
I'm excited for Valentine's Day.
Yes, I'm pretty sure Kagura's voice is the one we hear at the end, so I think she's like absolutely coming back, and I think that's going to be fun.
I hope so. The boar is still the cutest animal.
Yeah, no, she's the cutest of all of them, like, hands down.
Anyway, that does it for us. You can find out all the info on this podcast at overlyanimated.com. You can join us on Discord to text chat about animation at overlyanimated.com/Discord. You can support us via Patreon at patreon.com/overlyanimated. Thanks to all our current patrons, especially our patron of the podcast, Joanna, aka Crispy. And thanks as always to our Patreon executive producers, Ryan, Steve, Alex, Beatrice, Hugh, and Michael. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.